I'll say two things. First of all, I think a big part of my adult life has really been trying to give myself permission to have boundaries, not being all things to all people and whatnot. And I read this interesting book called Minimalism.
Oh yeah, I heard about it.
Well, it was an interesting book. And one of the things it said, it kind of has this 80-20 rule. You know how in any group, 20% of the people do 80% of the work, right? And the way they kind of talked about it was, really, you only need 20% of the stuff you think you need. And they talked about it too with relationships. And reading about that kind of gave me permission to think, how much, I have a certain amount of life force, you know? And maybe I need to invest in the 20% of relationships that mean the most to me and not feel so much obligation to that other huge 80% that are really, I love them, but I mean, really, I don't have the time if I'm going to invest in this 20% and have my village, right? And it really gave me a lot of permission as somebody who's really had that struggle with boundaries to feel like, actually, there's something legitimate in that. I'm not rejecting all of those 80. I'm just not pouring all my life force into it. And the other thing that I'll say, someone said this about me years ago and I never forgot it. They said, I really love how you accept people the way they are. I didn't know that about myself, but it was fascinating to have someone else reflect that back to me in high school. And
so this was in high school?
This was a long time ago. I held that with me and I said, well, if that is true, great. And if it isn't, it's something I would love for it to be true.
Okay.
And I do think that we need to do that. We need to be non-attached. We need to accept people for who they are and what they are able to give us. My dad, I loved my dad deeply. He had a lot of wounds. And I needed to accept the love he was able to give me and not wish that he was someone else that he couldn't be. You know?
That's so important.
Yeah. And I think that's really helps manage expectations and avoid disappointment and hurt feelings.
What is wealth in your experience?
I love that question.
I'm glad she likes all my questions, not all, but some of them.
Well, some of them I love. Some of them, they're great. But I think wealth is really just seeing abundance wherever you are. The ability to see abundance, even in grief, the abundance of healing that grief hands us, the abundance of knowledge and growth that challenges give us. Being able to see abundance, I think that's true wealth.
Wow, nice. What is the value of gratitude in your life?
I think it's tied, Can we be grateful for pain?
Tied with pain?
I think it's tied with wealth.
Oh, wealth, okay.
It's connected. Can we be grateful for difficulty and pain? I'm not trying to say that it's not difficult, that we should want it, but what I am saying is, so, for example, there's a whole line of mind-body medicine which looks at chronic pain as basically a manifestation in our body of rage and grief. So when you think about it, you get that back pain and you feel frustrated and angry at your back. Wow, why are you hurting me again? You're letting me down. Maybe our back is carrying something for us. Maybe we should be grateful to our back for telling us something's going on with you. You need to pay attention. Maybe we need to love our back and say, let me take a look at that. What's going on? Is there some kind of rage? We don't like rage, it's scary. Is there some kind of rage or grief that you are trying to alert me to? And if I pay attention and if I open myself to that, I can release it and heal. This is a gratitude for things that we're not normally grateful for. That I think
that's true.
Practices of gratitude.
We're always complaining about it.
Yeah,
then.
Yeah.
Not thankful for the pain even.
Yeah.
Okay. So whatever condition you are, you should be thankful because you never know what lesson we are learning from, and also
to say it that way sounds like you shouldn't be angry.
Yeah. Well,
and I think that's actually a really dangerous perspective. That trying to pressure people to feel gratitude when they're going through trauma is just not helpful.
Not helpful. That's
but
true.
what I am saying is that, once you've experienced, I'm a trauma survivor. When you've experienced trauma, your body, stores it. And then, you have PTSD, for example. Something triggers you, and all of a sudden you're on the floor and you're screaming. And we have this shame. Oh no, I have PTSD. Oh, this is terrible. What if that's our body trying to heal? What if we can thank our body for that?
Okay.
What if we can welcome that and say, that's wonderful, release the trauma.
Yes.
You know, this kind of intentional decision to welcome healing, even when it's hard. I don't want to welcome the trauma.
Yeah, but
right?
but the healing.
Yeah.
Okay. Is this life an illusion for you?
You know, I understand that there are areas of thought that kind of see it that way, and I do think I get the value in that perspective. It helps us to be non-attached. For me, I resonate more with the idea that this present moment is the only real thing. The future is imaginary, it hasn't happened yet, and the past is dead and gone.
Yep.
So people worry about the future, and they get stuck and hold on to the past. And what sets us free from that is actually just mindfully living in the present moment. Certain things about the present moment may be illusory, but this is all that we really know is real is right now. That's my perspective.
And whatever you're doing now is kind of creating your future.
Yeah. And it's building on your past.
Yeah.
So it's connected.
Yeah. Good. Do you believe in afterlife?
Yeah, you know, this is such an interesting...
Yeah, I wanted to know
this.
from your religious point of view.
I'm a mystic. I'm an agnostic. For me, it's more important to have the right questions and the right answers. So I am totally okay not knowing. That's really okay with me. As a matter of fact, I think it takes great courage to live with complexity and not certitude. However, I love spiritual practices that engage with ancestors and the communion of the saints, we call it. I think there's enormous value in that. If when I die, all that happens is my body turns into earth and that earth gives life to new creatures, that's resurrection for me. I don't need it to be more complicated than that. However, maybe there is sentience, and maybe we see our loved ones and we know that we're seeing them. And that's okay with me too. However, my loved ones, my ancestors, they do live on in me. And it's incredibly helpful for me to have an ancestor altar in my home that I can go and sit at and talk to my ancestors and bless them and thank them. And I feel enormous support and inspiration from my ancestors. Whether they actually can hear me or not, that's okay with me. It doesn't matter. Those rituals and those practices feed me and they nourish me. Does that answer your question?
Yes, I'm fine with that. I was going to say, well, okay, we'll have some classes in future too, you know, just a humorous part of it. But yeah, every faith has their own practices. Every individual have their own beliefs. So that's fine. Thank you.
Yeah.
Have you found your purpose of life? What's the purpose of your life?
You know, so I come from this Wesleyan tradition, and there's a real focus on love and grace. And so for me, I think my vision of my life purpose is just to grow in love. Love of self, love of neighbor, love of all creation, and love of divinity.
I don't know if we have time what is Wesleyan culture, but if we have time, maybe you can explain it after I ask a couple of more questions. But is that part of Christianity?
Yeah, so Wesley he helped to start Methodism, which came out of the Anglican Church and the Church of England.
So from the Methodist line of religion. Okay, because I'm learning too, so.
Not very many people know outside of Methodism.
Okay. Any message of hope that you would like to give us today?
Yeah, can I just glance at what I...
Yes, sure. Because it's important.
Yeah, I loved this question.
I'm so happy.
Oh,
yeah.
All your questions light me up.
Well, that's the last question.
This is such an important question. What is hope?
Yeah.
In Christian liberation theology, there's a strain of liberation theology which is about, it's what it sounds like, liberation from oppression.
Okay.
And it has this term in it called the preferential option for the poor. Now, I'm not 100% sure what the people who coined that term actually meant by it. This is what I think. It's like that peace that passes understanding. Only when everything has been taken away can you really understand what abundance is. Only when you understand total despair can you understand what hope really is. Only when you understand true turmoil can you understand what peace really is. Because if you can find peace in the midst of turmoil and hope in the midst of despair, then you have a really deep sense of hope. And I believe that that source of that hope is really seeing that the divine dwells inside us and all around us. And no matter where we are, the leaves of the trees and the blades of grass and the birds and within ourselves, we're never alone. We're never alone. So for me, that's a kind of, we're surrounded by kindred companions.
Thank you.
That's hopeful.
Now quickly, can you tell me what lights you up?
You know, you're going to have guessed. It's my tradition. My tradition lights me up. My
Okay.
ancestral and my faith tradition.
Wonderful.
I just feel so grateful for it. And
Wonderful.
every year that goes by, I feel more grateful for it.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Taliesin. Thank you for watching Light Up with Shua. I hope you will enjoy this episode just like the other episode with Taliesin. Please subscribe, stay tuned, and thank you again.